Catus, Maximus here. Just a quick review. Found a couple Vermont American metric and fractional screw pitch or screw thread checkers. These are the simple, just tooth type. And I did want to point out just a bit of an idiosyncrasy, which is kind of disappointing. We have one, an older one, lifetime warranty. They did eliminate that. Here's something else that's a bit of an irony. So the older one, this was before they were bought out, the Vermont American Tool Company out of North Carolina, made in Germany. Then they were bought out by Bosch and are now made in China. So they used to be made in Germany and then were bought out by a German company, are now made in China. So I think that's a little bit hilarious. But I thought it'd be neat to try to compare the original German-made one with the Chinese replacement. And these types of tools are just basic little tools just to double check the pitch of the thread on a fastener, and then you just measure the diameter of the fastener to get the get the sizing. Say a standard 10 millimeter or 10 millimeter head bolt. Those are actually a 6 millimeter shank with a 1 millimeter thread pitch. And let me get that nut off of here. It's always the hole or whatever is threaded, the nut or the hole, that's smaller than quote-unquote nominal size. So we can see the old one that's made in Germany does indeed say made in Germany. And the one that's made in China that says 208 suspiciously is missing the country of origin, but they're obviously real proud of the one that was made in Germany. I do like that stamped metric. These need a little bit of oiling. Certainly it's pretty tight on this German one. I suspect the Chinese one is definitely not as tight. A little bit easier when it's new, but it will loosen up over time. They do use brass rivets still on both of them. But how you use these is you just have a fastener and you just put these two fine tooth combs and see if they fit absolutely perfectly. If they don't fit perfectly, it'll rock up or you'll see light under the edge. You just put it in there and you say, oh, okay, that's a 1 millimeter thread. And just with some little calipers, you just measure it. It's going to be a little bit under, but that would be 6 millimeter diameter fastener. If we just do a quick example, the nut's going to be much smaller, as you can see. So there are other options, such as screw thread checkers, such as these, where you just take the fastener and you actually just thread it in. There's some other options as well, but these are always the simplest and, of course, the cheapest. So we do have the 1 millimeter teeth. They do look pretty nice on this German-made one. Let's pull out something that's a similar pitch, this fractional one. Okay, and just a quick example, here's a 24 threads per inch, which is almost a 1 millimeter thread pitch, but you can see it just won't quite sit in there. Now, if we do compare the Chinese and the German ones, we can see that they're actually pretty similar, but the finish of the metal just seems to be a little bit nicer on the German ones. The rivets are just a little bit larger. And there's a little example. It's either due to the quality of the metal or the manufacturing quality. But when you look on the back of these, you can see like little rub marks there and there. Those are the marks right where the stampings are, indicating that it has depressed the metal and there's actually a little hump right where they stamped it. But on this German one, it's absolutely perfect. So they did a better job there. Comparing these to maybe some other types of thread checkers, I've got a Globemaster here. This is made in Japan, and it's okay, but it's still not quite as nice, I would think, as these Vermont Americans here. Even the newer Vermonts, even though they're made in China, at least they are obviously still a better quality than something like this, which was a really cheap unit. I think the biggest issue that I would have with these is they are still pretty narrow. I guess they have the most common sizes, but it'd be nice if they had just a bit wider range. For example, here on the fractional one, we can see that the coarsest threads would be 10 threads per inch, which is pretty coarse. That would be a huge, actually like 1 inch drive, a 1 inch diameter fastener, and then we do that, and then the finest one that we find here is 40 threads per inch, so which is still a pretty decent range and will cover just about every fastener. The difference between a short set like this, we do have a long set over here, and this is a Fujikogu. It's also made in Japan, but this is a much more premium one, and we can see that it has thicker plates and it has all the sizes, plus it has a nice little thumb screw so you can loosen it up pull out the size that you need easily, position it, and then tighten the thumb screw down. You can see here, this will do 4 threads per inch. That's literally a 1/4 inch spacing between threads. This would be an 1.5 inch, 2-inch diameter fastener. This would be the size of threads used on, you know, heavy infrastructure, bridges and ships. I mean, that is an insanely coarse thread. And then, of course, because you do have the full complement, it goes all the way up to what is known as the finest thread that you can really measure, and that is an 80 threads per inch. You can see how fine that is. It's just, you would need a magnifying glass to even be able to determine whether your fastener really was 80 threads per inch, but that would cover anything in the microelectronics pretty much anywhere. So that's what a nice one looks like, and I did want to just do a little comparison between these two German and Chinese made Vermont Americans. And indeed, the German one's a little bit nicer, but at least Vermont American and Bosch was making somewhat of an attempt to maintain the degree of quality, even if they did change the country of manufacture. And I did want to point out that little piece of irony. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody who's been watching and subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.